Hello and welcome back to Lost and Found. This is episode 2. I'm sitting in my Airbnb in Jaipur. I need to be out of here in 40 minutes and only half of my stuff is packed up. I have an 8-hour train waiting for me. I'm arriving to Udaipur later tonight. It's apparently Rudyard Kipling's favorite city. So it's a different city in Rajasthan in India. And I really don't know how long I'm going for, but I'm excited. The Pink City has been amazing, but I'm ready for something new. Anyway, I'm your host, Carmen Vit, and welcome back to Lost and Found. I want to make time for you, and I want to have this conversation because this is something I wish somebody told me honestly, bluntly, when I was 16, 17. And I mean, I'm happy where I ended up, if I'm thinking about it now. I'm really happy how my life turned out. And somebody asked me the other night, if you could change anything in your life, what would it be? And I could honestly say I am so grateful. I am beyond amazed at how things just worked out. And I think if you're making decisions that feel like it is aligned with your happiness, then you will wake up one day and you'll look around and you'll be like, wow, how did this happen? I love this life. I love waking up to it. I feel excited every day. And I'm really grateful for that. And this is part of that. I think this podcast is also just a celebration of creating a life that we love. And that's what today's episode is all about. How to create a life that feels like yours. How to create a life that you love, that you're excited to wake up to every day. But, disclaimer, fair warning, I'm no guru. I by no means have it all figured out. I mean, I have ghosted and hurt people. I have lost friends because I'm a terrible texter. I've lived off of instant noodles for weeks because I blew my budget and then I did it again the next month. I have fallen in love with the wrong people, gone back and back again to those same people. And I've also fled from people who were really good for me. I'm still learning all of this. I'm still learning how to be by myself in the world and how my heart kind of stretches and breaks and deals with different things. But that's what this space is all about, right? We're doing this together. We're figuring it out together. So my hope is not to teach, but rather to share my experiences and my mistakes and my moments of joy so that we can maybe laugh at them together and hopefully learn something from the process, because honestly, I'm still learning too. But in that spirit, after almost 2 years of full-time travel, I definitely have learned a few things about how to create a life that doesn't necessarily fit the template, something you love to wake up to every day. And that's my first point. Realize that there is no template. There is no blueprint. That is something that is socially constructed, human-made. It is a myth, right? We all know that blueprint that's like, go to university, follow a safe career, get married, have kids. And if that's something you want to do, then amazing. But I implore you, be like Descartes. And yes, I am going to talk about philosophy in this podcast because I majored in philosophy along with literature, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. It has formed a lot of how I see the world. Anyway, be like Descartes. Take out all your apples and re-examine them and choose the ones that you really want. So what does that mean for people who don't know philosophy? René Descartes was a philosopher in the 1600s, and he had this metaphor for examining our life. He wanted to know what is real. What can we actually know? And he said that we should take all of our ideas that we have. Think of it as like apples in a little apple cart. Take each one out individually, scrutinize it, kind of figure out, why do we think this is the case? Why is it real? Where do these ideas come from? And after scrutinizing it and it still holds up, we still believe in this thing, then it's fine. Then you can keep the apple. But if it doesn't hold up and we feel like maybe this isn't legit, we don't agree with this isn't real for whatever reason, you throw the apple out. So the idea is to start from scratch. Build your own blueprint. Don't just inherit a blueprint. Because if you inherit a blueprint, and you run with it, you're going to wake up one day, you're going to look around, you're going to feel so deeply unfulfilled. And you're going to wonder, how the hell did I get here? I hate this. When I was a kid, I used to love doing X, Y, and Z. Why am I not doing this anymore? I'm not living a life that gives me joy. That is why, as fast as you can, you need to examine your apple cart, examine your ideas of the world, your values, what you think makes a good life, and figure out, where did these ideas come from? If you think that money makes a good life, that's fair. If you think that, great. Obviously, money is great. It allows people to travel. It allows you to feel safe. It allows you to do a bunch of stuff that really does bring you joy. So I'm not against that at all. But the idea is to examine, where does that value come from? Is that something you actually believe in? Or is that maybe something told to you by school or social media or your parents? And now you just believe that without question. And when you believe something without question, it's a hollow belief. It's a hollow value. And when something is hollow, it can't fulfill you, right? It's not going to hold up in the long run when life's miseries and hardships knock at you. The only thing that will keep you upright is your core beliefs and values that you truly believe in, that is yours. That's what keeps you standing in rough winds. So for me, what makes a good life is creative expression, finding new ways to experience life through creativity and then to express it. Or rather, should I say, experience life and then filter the experience through my creativity and then find new ways to express it. Because I found that when I express my experience of the world, I experience it on a deeper level. So when I write, it's like gratitude, right? I mean, we've all heard those podcasts and the statistics that if you write 3 things down that you're grateful for every single day, your brain is going to start rewiring itself to see things that you are grateful for. Okay, it's the red car. If you want a red car and you write down you want a red car, you're going to start seeing red cars everywhere. So it's what your brain focuses on. So for me, when I'm writing every day, when I'm creating every day, it's like that expression, that creativity just snowballs, because then suddenly my mind is on high alert to see things in a creative way, and it's like ready to snatch up experiences and already transcribing it into poetry or writing or whatever in my mind. And so when I'm living like that, subconsciously on high alert for inspiration for my creative expression, then life itself becomes inspiration, right? So for me, what makes a good life is realize that the blueprint doesn't exist. Question your own values, figure out, where do they come from? Are they actually mine? And then name those values after you've thought about that. And for me, my number one value is creative expression and creating a life where I get to be creative every single day. I've actually had a really interesting conversation with my boss a few weeks ago. So for those of you that don't know, I work online. I work a full-time job for a marketing agency that's based in London. And I was hired as a content writer. And loved my job. I got a lot of freedom. I got to travel. Really grateful for the experience, and I learned a lot. And then about maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, my boss fired almost all of our content writers because of AI, obviously. And the company is very performance driven. So we basically just ended up with one head editor, and she is now overseeing all the content. And he told me, well, we don't need you as a content writer anymore, but I still want you in the company. So he kind of wanted to push me into a completely different role, something that I wasn't trained for at all, something like an e-commerce manager. And something that I really knew I wasn't going to enjoy. But if this was the only option, I told him, okay, let's try it out. And I tried it for about 2 weeks. And for the first time in my life, I hated logging on for work. I loved school. I loved university. I studied what I loved. So for me, it never felt like work. I loved learning new things in school. I never hated going to school, lucky me. And then when I started writing as a content writer for this marketing agency, I really enjoyed that too. So I've never really been confronted with that like Sunday blues feeling, like really dreading logging on to work. And then I would log on to work and I just don't have that oomph. Usually in the mornings, I want to do 10,000 things at the same time because I just have so much energy and creativity and I'm, ready to work. And I just didn't feel that. And so after about 2 weeks of doing this, I realized I had to have a conversation with him. And it was scary because I knew that if I tell him I don't want to do this, he's probably going to tell me that there's nothing else. So I'm going to have to go. And that's going to be sad because all the other online jobs that I've looked into really don't give me the same amount of geographical freedom that this job gives me. They want you to come into the office like once a week, or they want you to be in a certain country for tax reasons. Anyway, so it was scary having to bring up this conversation. I really didn't know where it was going to go, but I told myself I need to detach from the outcome. I need to be able to walk away if this isn't going to be able to turn into something that will bring me joy. Because what is the point? If I'm working 8, 9 hours a day, sometimes even more, and I hate what I'm doing, what is the point? In life, literally, like on deeply philosophical level, we create our everyday lives. We choose. We are deeply, deeply free to curate our lives. And everything's a risk. Everything is scary. Working a stable job is just as much of a risk as following your dreams because you could be fired any day. AI could take over your job, then you have to change jobs. So you might as well do what will truly bring you joy. This is the mindset I went into. I was like, I need to detach from the outcome. So I'm psyching myself up to have this conversation with him. And I basically tell him exactly what I told you guys, that I really don't enjoy this. And his first reaction, bless his heart, is telling me that, well, we're not really supposed to enjoy our jobs. And then he tells me something about a statistic he read that people really only enjoy 40% of their jobs. And I basically telling me I need to get over it. This is what he has for me. He's already done me a favor to keep me in the company and not fire me like the rest of the content writers. And I tell him, respectfully, that is depressing, and I don't agree with it. I cannot accept that I will live the rest of my life just happy 40% of the time. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And then he starts telling me, like, do you think I enjoy doing this, waking up at 6 a.m., having meetings and dealing with clients? And I stay calm, and I really listen to him, and I hear him out, and I know that a lot of people have this mindset of being successful is a struggle. You can't really be happy while striving for success. The grind. It's all about the grind. And I believed in that at some point. I thought that grinding it out was the way to success. But at some point in my life, I realized that when I was the most successful, when I achieved crazy things that I look back at and I'm like, how did that happen? I was in complete flow. It came to me so easily because I loved the work. So the work came easily. It never felt like a grind. So I tell him I need to do something that brings me joy. And if I do something that brings me joy, I will also give way more value to the company than if I'm doing something I hate. And if I'm doing something I love, then I also have a lot more energy outside of the company to do my own creative pursuits, which like I'm doing now, the podcast, for example. And he tells me he has to think about it. It doesn't sound very promising. And basically the next day he gets back to me and he's like, yeah, okay, let's try it. So we brainstormed a whole new role for me, something that I now absolutely love and I'm thriving in. I feel more productive than I've ever felt. And really, it's just having that courage to step up and ask for what you want, because if there's one thing I learned, it's that if you don't ask for what you want, you're not going to get it. So ask for what you want, but also continually put yourself in the position of joy, because then opportunities will flow to you. If you're doing what you love and you feel like you're in flow, then you will have momentum. Another example of that kind of momentum is this group trip I'm hosting now in December. So I've been creating content about my travels for a while now. I really put my heart and soul into everything I post and put out there. And at first it was scary because I never really thought that I would be a content creator around my personal life. When I was younger, I write poetry and publish that online and on Instagram. And that was great, but I never really linked it to my face. It was a separate account. So kind of creating content around my travels and around my face was really a scary thought. But I started doing it slowly but surely. And then I started turning my blog more personal and putting stuff out there on a regular basis. And then I was like, I want to do the podcast. And now I'm doing that. And as I was doing this, everything snowballed because I was loving it so much and it fuels me creatively. And I love inspiring people and having really deep and honest conversations. So it really just flowed out of me. And somehow World Packers saw some of my content and reached out and asked me to host one of their group trips this December, which is insane because I've been volunteering with World Packers since I started traveling. So for those of you who don't know, World Packers is this company that basically you buy a $50 membership for the year. So it's $50 a year. Then you get access to all these insane volunteer opportunities all around the world. Apply on the site. It's basically a work exchange. And it can be anything. Like I've taught English, I've worked in hostels, I've worked on a permaculture farm. So you give a few hours of work in exchange for free accommodation and sometimes even free food. And then you get to live in that country for free. And it's not a lot of work. So it really is suitable for people who want to travel on a tight budget. So I've used World Packers a lot. So when they reached out to me to ask me to host one of their group trips, and I'm definitely not a big creator, for me it was just proof that when you do something you love, opportunities will flow to you. Why? Because the work flows out of you. Okay, so that is my second point. Follow the fire. You know that little fire burning in you, the butterflies you get when you start a project? It's something that you're really excited about. You start a job, you start writing a book, or you start training for a marathon or something that, really lights you up inside. That little fire, see it as a guiding light, a torch guiding you towards the person you're meant to be, because that's how you're supposed to feel every single day of your life. Fired up, lit up from the inside, passionate about what you're doing. Okay, so follow the light. Create space in your life for creative expression. And I don't care if you think you're not a creative person, because everybody is creative in their own ways. Try it out. Do something. I mean, I never thought that I could draw or paint or anything like that. I knew I could write, and I love designing and stuff like that. And then the other night I was with a friend, and he's an artist, and he said, well, let's open a bottle of wine and I want to work on my artwork. So why don't you do something? I felt like a little kid. He gave me crayons. I sat there with the crayons and I was scrolling through Pinterest trying to find ideas. And the moment I started, I felt 6 years old again. I was completely lost in that space of just creating, my mind set on one thing and not focusing on the outcome, not caring what it looks like in the end, but just enjoying that space of creating. And that was like meditation, honestly. It was soul nourishing. I loved it. And I think everybody should make space for something like that in their lives, be it writing or painting or just scribbling something with crayons or talking into your voice recorder or doing something that reconnects you to yourself and your own creative expression, something that helps you refocus on how you see life, right? Okay, so there is no blueprint. Create your own blueprint. And you do that by figuring out what you actually value in life, what you believe makes a good life. Following the burn, the torchlight, following the joy, that thing that kind of makes you nervous but lights you up. And okay, so a lot of people then would ask me, what are the signs that I'm on autopilot? Because sometimes you just go numb and you don't feel life. So what are the signs that you're on autopilot? Well, the first thing is I would say that you feel disconnected from your days. You don't truly deeply feel. You get to the end of your day and you're like, oh, what did I even do? What did I have for lunch? I don't remember. Second thing is you keep yourself busy, but you don't feel fulfilled. You don't feel like you're making a difference. I do think that a big part of happiness is giving back. My mom always says, you should level up your success by making it significant. So it's not just about my success and what I'm doing, but how can I turn that success into something that is significant to somebody else, that gives back. By the way, that's what we're going to do with my group trip in December. We're going to be learning about marine life conservation and volunteering with beach cleanups and protecting the coral reefs in Bali, while also getting our open water diving licenses. So go look on my website. I'll also put it in the show notes. But yeah, join the group chat. We're still figuring out pricing with World Packers and everything, but all the info goes on the group chat in the next couple of days. Anyway, so you feel like you're not fulfilled. And I think a big antidote to feeling not fulfilled is to be significant for somebody else, to do something that changes somebody else's life, even if just in the smallest way. Another point is you're constantly asking other people what they think you should be doing. No, somebody who is truly happy, who is aligned with their path, they know what they should be doing. You should be stubborn. People always tell me I'm the most stubborn person that they've ever met because I know what makes me happy and I'm not going to compromise on that. I think, oh, I hate that. All my ex-boyfriends have always told me that my biggest flaw is that I'm stubborn. I think that's honestly, such a patronizing sexist thing to say. Because if we say that about a man, people just think that person's goal-orientated, that man is goal-orientated, but suddenly a woman is stubborn. But anyway, I don't want to go into all of that. I want to tell you to be stubborn. Be stubborn on what you know makes you happy and lights you up. And another one is you feel that like dread on a Sunday, the Sunday blues. You don't want to start your week. You don't want to start your workday. You don't want to go to school. And trust me, you don't want to feel like that for the rest of your life. Nothing, no stable paycheck is worth hating and dreading 60% of your life. Don't do it. And then the other one is you say yes to things out of fear of obligation. You feel like you can't say no, you don't have boundaries, but that's a whole other conversation. You feel like you have to do these things because you don't have a choice. And I know that sometimes doing the right thing feels like saying yes, going out of your way for a job, for a relationship, for a degree, for your family. But really, doing the right thing is what you can give and do without depleting yourself. And if you're not even happy, if you're not living a life that you feel fulfills you, you'll never be able to give back to anybody without feeling resentful. And that's just going to deplete you more. But the beautiful thing about living a life that gives you joy is to actually do the things and be productive and be successful, and how that all snowballs and you're doing all these things. But then also it makes you happy. So you feel fulfilled, so you can give back to other people, which makes you feel more fulfilled. Joy has a snowball effect, and so does misery. Remember that. Okay, so some questions I want to leave you with. I feel like I need to do a part 2 of this because I literally need to check out of my Airbnb in 8 minutes. And I still have so much left to pack. But anyway, I'm going to do it part 2. But I want to leave you with some questions. What part of my life feels energizing to me? Obviously, this is what you need to ask yourself. So what part of your life feels energizing to you? And how do you start by creating a life you love? You start on a small scale by building that into your life. For me, it is a walk. I love long walks with a podcast or an audiobook, or sometimes, I'm not going to say this too loud, but I love going for long walks in parks. And when I'm like kind of by myself and I don't see people around me, I'll just talk to myself out loud in a British accent. It's one of my stranger things that gives me joy. But anyway, what brings you joy, or what energizes you? And then how can you build that into your life, even just in a bite-sized way to start off with? Then ask yourself what part of your life feels heavy or performative. What are the things that you do that you feel like, "Ugh, it drains me. I dread doing this," right? And just start off with naming that and thinking about, is that something you want to do for the rest of your life? Is that a feeling you want to have for the rest of your life? I guess not. So if you just procrastinate on changing it, then you're going to have to either be unhappy for a lot longer than you have to be, or you're going to have to deal with that change later when you probably have a lot more responsibility than you do right now. Another question: if no one is watching, what would you do differently? If no one is watching, what will you do differently? Another one: what does success look like to you? And that goes back to the apple cart. What does success look like to you? Not your parents, not social media, not society, but you. What do you need to achieve in your life to feel like, okay, I have been successful, I'm happy? And to know that, you need to know what your values are. What do you value in life? What do you think makes a good life? I read this incredible quote. It's now my favorite quote in the whole world. And it says, the only people worth impressing are your 5-year-old self and your 85-year-old self. And I think if you try and put yourself in the mindset of your 5-year-old self and your 85-year-old self, those two personas will have a good idea of what makes you happy and what success looks like. Because what brought you joy when you were a 5-year-old kid, that is just unfiltered joy. Maybe running around, drawing, playing, talking to friends, baking, trying new experiments, that childlike joy. What was it that brought you that joy? And then how can you build that into your life? When you're 85 years old, think about what that version of you will think of your life right now and what you're doing with your life right now and what they will tell you. Because chances are you already know that's you. That 85-year-old version of you is still you. Yeah, they lived a lot more, they learned a lot more. But I think that at one point we're all versions of ourselves at once. And that knowledge already lingers in you. Just tap into it. Put yourself in that mindset. What would your 85-year-old version of yourself tell you about how you're living right now? And then ask yourself, if you're following the habits and the choices and everything that you're making right now, if this is what you're doing with your life and you can kind of see where it's leading you, down what path it's leading you, ask yourself, what version am I going to become on this path? And do I like that person? Do I want to be that version of myself? Okay, I've left you with some things to think about. And I just want to say thank you for being here. I really love having these conversations with you. Please subscribe to my podcast and share this with a friend if you think it will add value to somebody's life. And give me a review or a comment or something. You know, the thing that all the podcasters always say, I'm new to this, so do the thing. Do all the things, please. I love you. I'll see you next time. Be kind to yourself and let's be lost and found together.